Today in the bunker, we're going to make a giant machine suitable for the underhive. To build this, we're going to use some XPS foam, various size pieces that I've cut out on the hot wire cutter, but you could easily cut those with a craft knife, no problem. I'm going to use some of these balloon stick pieces. They're very thick plastic tubes. I'm going to use some of this flex tubing like you would use for cords, electrical cords, whatnot, different wires. We've got, of course, our drywall tapes, and we've got some miscellaneous wire and whatnot, and then lots and lots of bottle caps and different things to add. Probably some of these other drink straws and whatever else we can find laying around. To start with, I made two bases that are 12 inches by 6 inches. Just make them to fit with whatever tiles or floor system you're using. I did this so I can give it a concrete texture, and we'll add metal elements to it. Most of that will be glued on with hot glue. We're going to use a lot of cereal box card and drink carton card to glue to this, and then we can hot glue the other pieces to. While I'm waiting for the hot glue gun to heat up, I'm going to take a tinfoil ball and we'll just go ahead and texture all of these pieces that need some concrete texture, some really weathered, worn texture. And we'll just add that on there like that. Used a low temp glue gun to join all of these pieces. Especially on the back, you can run a pretty good bead because the back's not really going to be seen. I hit the camera. Same thing with your supports. If they don't quite fit, that's alright. You can kind of gap fill with the hot glue, and we'll texture over that later, so not a big deal. So let's figure out our walkway and get that sorted. I added some upper walkway bits just to add a little bit of more visual interest, plus give a place for players to get up on and maybe shoot from, and of course fall off of, plummet to their doom. So we'll add some ladders and whatnot along with the other things that we'll put on this, but I'm going to get some card ready and we'll start applying that in places we want detail to be. Alright, once this is all put together, I've got our walkways glued on here, and I sort of didn't figure on this being quite as huge, so it doesn't really fit into the shot very well. But what I'm going to do on both of these, and they're basically identical, they're sort of mirror images of each other, I'm going to add some pipes and some wiring and greebles and details so that this can be either an end piece, or I added some pieces on the sides so that they'll fit together, and this will make one 12 by 12 tile that can sort of sit in the middle if needed, or help divide up the board in some way. So let's get the glue gun heated up and see what we can stick on here. Despite our setback with the PVC pipes, we are going to endeavor to persevere. So I just started to whack on just various greebles and caps and pieces of pipe. Strangely enough, this glues well enough if you glue it to foam. It just doesn't like to glue to itself. I don't understand that, but whatever. Anyway, we're going to just keep adding pieces, parts, and see what we end up with. In addition to our normal greebles, I wanted to add some kind of access to the upper levels. So I took these metal staples and just kind of pushed them in. I did that by eye. I kind of wished I'd measured that out now, but you know, once they're painted, they'll be perfect metal rungs. The key with a build like this is just to keep glomming stuff on until you're happy with it. I just added all kinds of little pipe pieces and 3D printed bits, the steel staples, some straws, some wire, drywall tape, various textures, added some rivets on. So this one over here is dry enough to go ahead and start priming. The other one I'm going to leave to dry, probably add a few more details. So let's get this one primed and see what it looks like. Here it is with a bit of priming on it. I used a floral paint that I got on sale over at Michael's. It's a brown color, and then I sprayed over it from hopefully a safe distance with just some regular gray spray paint. And I'm going to go back and touch up some of the areas with the brush, but overall it worked fairly well and was very quick. And since I caught that spray paint on sale for only $5, it was a pretty good deal because I can do a number of huge pieces like this. So we're going to go ahead and get some brush painting on it. I'm just going to use some craft paint. I'm going to paint it basically neat. I'm not really going to thin it, and just add it on to any of the concrete areas that might need a little extra help with the color. With the gray applied with the brush, where we could kind of get in behind things a little better, that's neatened it up considerably. So now I'm going to go back and start with a rusted metal base for things like the walkways and the pipes and all that. And we're just going to use another craft paint. Alright, with our metal based in that dark umber color, once I block the light, that'll be a basis for rust and staining and all that good stuff. Also, I glued some little bits of foam and some sand and whatnot, probably can't really see it very well, around the corners, mainly to hide the hot glue bead, but also just to add a little more depth to the piece. So we'll paint that up in rusty colors as we go. It's just supposed to be kind of accumulated gunk. Once the glue dried and the primer dried, I was able to start on that second piece of the machine. So we've got that base coated. We put some burnt umber on all of our metal bits, and then went back over with that gunmetal color. On this one, instead of doing the rungs with the staples, I used the hardware cloth to make a ladder. And that came out a lot better. It's much neater in appearance. So that's what I'll do going forward. Those rungs didn't work out quite as well as I'd hoped. They look okay, but they're not quite what I wanted. So we're going to go ahead and work on some rusting texture and some staining on the concrete and probably some markings. For our rust, I'm just using a raw sienna color and a stippling brush, and we'll just get a little bit on the brush, not too much, and then we'll just stipple it on. And that works to also give us a texture, so that builds up the rust in layers and makes it look a little better. Sorry about that shot right there. So just add that anywhere there's metal that you think should be rusty, sort of to taste. And again, who doesn't love the taste of rust? So we're going to go ahead and continue with that on. You can use some darker browns as well to get kind of a more aged rust. Bleh. You can use a darker brown in order to get a more aged look. This brighter kind of orangey color would be a little fresher. So it's all about the age of your weathering. Alright, it's pretty much done. I've got the rust effects applied. I put on some pigments that I scraped off of some chalks and added that to the paint. It's a little bright, but it'll tone down once I hit it with a little bit of varnish. I got some stencils out and just added some various markings. You can see where I glued on the sand and the pigment, as well as, you know, various paint effects and whatnot. I put a black wash over all the concrete just to try to sort of dirty everything up a little bit. I picked out some details like the wires and painted those. And along with the markings, it you know, works pretty well, I think, to kind of give the impression of a giant abandoned machine of some sort. So all in all, not bad. Should look pretty good when I put painted models in front of it.